could have been with the School for Good and Evil movie. First off, I like to say I'm a huge fan of Soman Shinani's writings. His style of writing is so different from usual YA or children's fiction, as he writes about settings, characters in a very artistic yet visually detailed way that really gets across a specific image he's trying to let you see. He's inspired me to write my own personal stories. I own all his books from the School for Good and Evil series, and I love to reread them, as you can see from the state of my collection. LOL. Like everyone else, I was super excited when I found out there was going to be a movie made, and I thought it'll be so stunning. So after it finally came out, I have to say, I felt pretty meh about the whole movie, and also a little disappointed that this was what came out after years of being in production hell. Let's start with the good parts. 1. Set, costume design and VFX. I think the book's set design is nearly impossible to replicate if you don't have a big budget, so I think the movie did really good with the costume and set design with the budget given. The VFX is so good, especially when they mogrify or turn into animals. Clearly they put a lot of money into that. 2. The actors and crew. I think it's clear to see that everyone involved in this project really gave it their best, and I can really feel everyone's love for this movie's production. They put a lot of thought into the movement of characters, especially the choreography of the fight scenes, which is wild dramatic. It fits into the glamour of the original series. I really love that Soman was involved in the production, and he seemed to have a lot of fun creating the movie too. And now moving on to the parts I have other feelings on. 1. Rushed story and tonal inconsistency. The marketing for this movie made it feel like it made for fans, that they would be faithful to how the book was written. Of course, movies can't totally portray every detail since books and films are totally different mediums. But I feel the movie asked Soman or someone to list the fan favorite moments of the book and just ran with it, without really caring how they connected to each other or why they were important, like Tedros's confession to Agatha. Why did it become this? Haha. Oh, by the way, I love you. Like what? In the movie, this happens when Sophie is about to kill people. Why? Take away the gravity of this situation? It also feels so out of character for Tedros to say it like that, because it was a slow realization that he liked her, and he had a long journey to make it up to Agatha to show that he really did, because he did some nasty things to her. In the book, I feel it. It takes away why their romance was so beloved, and I don't even think he confessed to her in the book. It was just this unspoken truth between them, and we know he loved her for who she was, not because of what she looked like. As a Tagatha lover, I would have liked to see this play out differently. Also, why does everyone laugh so much in this movie? I know I'll sound like the Grinch, but there's just simply so much, and it takes away the seriousness of some situations too. I feel secondhand embarrassment when they laugh because it feels so forced, and why choose these pop songs to play in the background? I know the premise of a school of angsty teenagers is so unserious to begin with, but the song choices are not helping, and again, Britney Spears playing right before your two major characters have a serious discussion is frankly disrespectful at this point. 2. The characterization. I have really big issues with the characterization, but my biggest gripe is how they handled Sophie. What does the movie want to do with Sophie? The biggest theme in the original book was that in life, there are shades of gray between. People that look good aren't necessarily good, and people who look bad aren't necessarily bad. It's why Sophie, love or hate her, is such an important character to the series. She begins the book befriending Agatha for the sole purpose of making Agatha her good deed, to show that Sophie was such a good person that she would befriend the village outcast. Yes, Sophie grows to have a genuine relationship with Agatha by the end, but she had to work for it. She had to confront herself, knowing that deep down, she isn't the person she is trying to be, and despite all that, Agatha still deeply cares for her. Sophie goes through a deep character arc to purge her greedy, selfish self to bring to the surface a better self with her ambition and admirable desire to build a good life for herself, and also become less murderous. She and Agatha were supposed to parallel the brothers or the schoolmasters, where instead of choosing to be evil like Rafal, Sophie chooses to love instead of repeating Rafal's errors. It's so human and powerful to read, so it becomes really sad when that's all taken away. Sophie is rewritten as someone who actually gave a F about Agatha from the start. While noble, her character journey becomes pretty superficial, and it becomes nonsensical when she turns on Agatha so quickly for some guy.
Not the love of your life! He is literally just a guy! Hit him with your car!
I like that in the book, she is evil and is in denial about it, before she slowly transforms into a full-fledged witch on her own accord, not because some guy handed her the power to and somewhat implied, manipulated her into. It takes away her autonomy, which yes, a lot can be said with how this is, like in the real world. But what makes Sophie so Sophie is that chose to do things because she wanted to. She cruelly broke off her friendship with Agatha in the book by calling Agatha just so she can get what she wanted, and when she didn't, she made sure everyone suffered. Girlie was so unapologetic and ruthless about her bad behavior, which makes her so memorable. Book Sophie is undeniably her own human who made mistakes and went through and chose to undergo a deep journey to change herself for the better. In my opinion, that's a lot more impactful. And Agatha? Why take away her insecurity and social awkwardness? I sound like a sociopath, but her insecurity and social awkwardness make her so relatable and lovable. It was so satisfying to see her overcome it because she realizes she's beautiful all along, no matter what others think or say. There's this scene in the book where she realizes this herself after a tough fight with Sophie. She's vulnerable, but she grows to be a strong person. She learns to stand without Sophie and become her own person too, and it's one of my favorite scenes ever because I can totally relate to how she feels. She had a tough time too, but movie Agatha comes in without any need to change or improve herself. Nothing wrong with being self-confident and good, but it makes her character just there. Like, why Agatha? I can just swap her out with some other generic background character and it wouldn't be any different. She doesn't go through her own journey of self-discovery and she's simply just there. 3. The acting. The actors are good at their jobs, but I think because the director is Paul Feig, they had to act a certain way, which I feel came out very stilted and like those POV TikToks. It was very inconsistent with how the characters are in the book, and their acting felt like acting, like they were being someone they were not, instead of embodying an actual character. For example, Professor DeVay. She's calm, collected, and never blames her students for their actions and works patiently with them to correct their mistakes in the book. But in this movie, she seems so jittery and on the verge of yelling at one of her students for every minor inconvenience. And why is Lady Lesso such a cartoon villain? In the movie, she is bent on getting evil to win over good to the point she purposefully goes against her students and colleagues to get there. I know by this point, the movie is meant to stand apart from its source material, but I much rather prefer Lady Lesso from the books, because while she cared about helping evil win, she cared about balance as well, and she cared deeply about her students deep down. Also, she had a fun, academic rivals sort of relationship with Professor DeVay. But it's reduced to yelling around at each other. Why do all the professors keep yelling at each other so much? I guess it's for shock factor, but the characters could have been so much more. I just feel it's a waste of such great actors being reduced to comic relief. The movie Loki feels like those YouTube Kids videos where they scream every 1 minute and make big, dramatic gestures and facial expressions to get across their point, which is so, well, you know. Lastly, the important emotional beats or themes taken out. Again, I'm sure they took out many things from the original series in the interest of time and budget, like August Sadler, my favorite by the way. But one thing I feel they should have kept is the circus of talents. People who are going to read the book, skip forward now because I'm going to spoil some things. I feel they should have kept the circus of talents because it really nails down the theme of not everything is as it seems, because the wolf guards are actually good students who failed and the fairy guards are evil students who failed. Like, isn't that so twisted? It also plays into the theme of not trusting corrupted authority and how entrenched systems in place shouldn't be kept just for the sake of it. They should have made Rafal turn back into an old, decrepit man, not Kit Young, because again it nails the biggest theme in the series, and I think it's an interesting point of how figures of authority can prey on innocent people. I also feel the reveal of Witch Sophie at the circus is way cooler than at the ball, because after finding out all these innocent children were turned into creatures against their own will, we can feel something for Sophie when she appears right after, transformed into something that she too needs help getting out of. I feel the movie never had any major overarching theme going for it. At most, I can only think is that the conventionally attractive blonde girl doesn't the conventionally beautiful prince, because it's what inside that counts. So, why make Sophie good? Why take away the biggest enforcer of the theme? I also like that in the book, There were always comments made about people who didn't fit the mold, like the 12 dancing princesses, and how all the good students thought how could they be princesses if they look so old and not beautiful anymore? But everyone in the movie is just there, and it's just a simple story of two girls trying to go home as one gets manipulated to becoming evil. The original essence of the series is gone. Overall, I give the movie 4 points. It's visually stunning and everyone involved gave it so much love, but when you really watch it, it doesn't give as much, and I think it makes for a nice watch for your family that you'll forget about the day after. As a fan of the series, I wished we had gotten something more consistent, dark and gritty in line with the original series. Anyways, this is not meant to be a hate and go harass the actors and producers. The movie stands fine on its own, and again, I really feel the love everyone involved had for the production. I actually excitedly kept up with the behind the scenes and tidbits stuff in the weeks leading up to the movie's release day through Soman's and the movie's official Instagram account. What are your thoughts on the movie? I'd love to hear your opinions, and I hope you enjoy my first video critique. Please like and subscribe if you did, and hope to see you soon.